Take two of
Yeah.
Studio Ghibli review series again. Um, the lighting's now better, so optimized.
We're back.
We're back.
Episode 3.
Look less like spirits,
Right.
even though we're talking about Spirited Away.
Episode 3 of
The Studio Ghibli review series. Ghibli review series. I apologize. I always want to add the studio part, but it's like
It makes sense.
it does, but it doesn't. It's not necessary.
Yeah.
You know.
I can see why you want to add it. But we're getting dark today.
Getting a lot darker than we used to be. And we're talking about death, destruction,
Spirit.
pain, spirits,
Creepy stuff.
a lot of creepy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so with Spirited Away, it opens kind of cold, and it's just they're traveling to their new home, and the main female protagonist just isn't about it. But the parents, being the parents, are like, "Oh no, it'll be fine. We'll be fine."
Yeah, adults are a little dumb in some of these movies.
Yes,
Especially
adults.
when it's kid-centric, at least. When it's, like, focused on kids.
Even this one, where it's a little more adult themed, it's still the parents are still kind of dumb.
Yeah. No, but I mean, like when the main character is, like, a kid. Like,
Yes,
like,
yes.
the kid is the main character.
Yes,
Then the adults are usually...
not that bright.
Yeah.
And so the main character, Chihiro, is now going with her family over to their new house. It's the blue one up on the corner, as they said, and they take a side path and see like spirit shrines, which kind of alludes to the whole essence of the movie.
Yeah.
And they see them, they dismiss them real quick, like, oh, this is nothing, don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, they go off the beaten path, and the dad has a track record of
Yes. Yes,
Mom says
that outright gets called out, and he's like, "No, it's fine. I have 4-wheel drive on this thing."
Yeah, it's all fun, and they just go, and it's whatever.
And then they get further along the path, and they stop very abruptly in front of this, like, I don't even know what to call it, because it's like a stone sculpture thing that's in front of a bridge-looking mosaic thing that he says is fake. I don't know. It looks like a bridge. But it's not a bridge. It's apparently an entrance.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a tunnel or whatever. I think it kind of vaguely reminds me of what are the Japanese big entrance signs or whatever.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, the red ones. I
Yeah.
think they're called. But it kind of looks like that. Also, why was he driving so fast on that road?
That is a better question. Like, why?
No reason.
He is hoofing it. I mean, he is just pedal to the metal. Let's go.
Yeah, no reason.
Well, they did mention that they're trying to beat the movers, so they can get there before the movers get there. Yeah. Even though the movers have a key, which he talks about like literally 5 seconds later. Like, no, it's fine for late. They have a key. But still, he has no reason to be flying and then slam on the brakes in front of this thing, and then he's curious as to they're all curious as to what's behind the wall of sorts. And so they go in, even though Chihiro is very, very adamantly against it.
Yeah, and the mom, too. Like, at the start, the mom was like, we should turn back. We shouldn't go there.
And then she just, I guess the dad coaxes her? And it's just like, come on. She's like, all right.
We'll get into it a little later. I think at this point, they're enchanted. I think they're under the spell, and they're
I can see that.
Getting sucked in.
Yeah, I can see that. Because they do talk about how it's pulling us in with the wind and such when they're standing at that entrance of that tunnel.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's pulling us in. So they probably are enchanted. I'll get into it later, but there's like a conspiracy story theory about it. About supposedly, we'll get into it later, but it's supposedly the parents are dead and that's why they're going in. But it'll tie in kind of to the ending. So they go in and they think they've been, the dad's like, oh, this must be an abandoned theme park. They built them all over the place in the 90s. So it kind of dates it, but not really.
Yeah.
So we know it's after the 90s, but we don't really know when after the 90s. Even though the movie is produced in 2001, it's not actually 2001. Or at least it doesn't seem to be implied that. So it's more dated, it's more brought along than our other ones, which are definitely have to be early 80s, late 80s at the best. Whereas this one clearly seems a lot more brought along.
Yeah.
Even the fact that they're using a car, like
it's definitely a little more modern. Also, not completely in line with that, but the characters in this look more unique than the last.
Yes.
The last couple,
except the dad.
you can see.
When you mentioned it last time of the male figures looking the same, the dad looks the same as the baker as the father did.
Yeah, he looks
very similar.
No, I don't think he looks exactly the same though. I think he looks different in this movie, a little different.
Okay.
Actually. But yeah, you can definitely see like
the similarities in the animation style.
You can see the similarities for sure.
So they go to this abandoned theme park and they're just kind of going around, exploring it, and then they find this like food stand, which is apparently the only one that's making food.
Yeah, and there's no one there.
And there's no one there anywhere. And instead of, waiting or being patient or anything, they just start gouging themselves on food. And the dad's like, oh, I got a credit card and cash.
Yeah, they just
I'll pay for it. I don't care.
Start going at it.
Yeah.
Which, like, they're under the spell.
Maybe the spell's already affected them. That's part of why they're doing that.
Or they're just really gluttonous. Gluttonous bastards.
Yes. And so they're eating all this food. They're gouging themselves on it, and Chihiro wanders off, kind of exploring the area. And this is where we get like their first introduction of like what's going to be the main area, which is the bathhouse.
Yeah.
And it's very quickly mentioned. It's like, oh, it's just a bathhouse. And she wanders back, and then we find that the spell is clearly having some effect of some sort because they've turned into pigs.
Yeah,
quite literally.
I think what happens is she goes to the bathhouse, and then Haku shows up, and then he tells her like, "You have to get out of here
before nightfall."
And she runs. She tries to go to her parents.
Yep.
Pigs though.
They've transformed into pigs. Yeah.
So creepy. That's way creepy.
It's
when
creepy.
I saw that
it's weird.
It was. Oh my god! It was so bad. It haunted me.
I can see that.
But yeah, then she runs away.
And then she tries to run back across. He mentions that he has to cross a little stream that they passed by on the way in. And she tries to go back to it, but then it's like a lake at that point.
Fully blocked off.
It's fully blocked off. And so she returned to her parents, saw that there were pigs, decided to abandon them essentially to go try and escape, as she was told. Gets to this lake, and then that's when the first like weird mystical transformation happens, where she starts to like become a spirit.
Yeah. She starts to. I think like she starts to be like, oh, this is a dream. Go away, disappear, and then she literally starts
disappearing. Yeah,
which was kind of funny.
Yeah,
or interesting, but yeah, and then Haku shows up.
Yes, and Haku shows up and. The seemingly hero character that all of them have. Haku seems to be the hero character of this one.
Yeah, the kind of the local boy.
Yes, local boy. And he comes and saves her and says, "Here, eat this. This is spirit food. It'll heal you, and you'll be fine. Just you have to eat it." So she does. All is fine, and then we get an introduction to Yubaba, the main witch. Kind of antagonist, but not really.
Yeah.
She's not necessarily evil or against her. She's just
Yubaba. I think she is kind of antagonistic.
She's antagonistic, but she's not like evil outright or anything like that because she does honor all the things that she says she would do.
Yeah, I think she's bound. I think she's like a witch kind of thing. I think there's like rules to the world, and she's kind of bound to them.
Yes,
same as everyone else.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. So I guess. Yeah. How was the sequence of things? I think.
So
Haku
tells her to eat it. She eats the thing. Then we get the first introduction of Yubaba in her crow form, patrolling the city looking for her.
Yeah.
And then Haku takes her to the bridge and says, "Okay, you have to hold your breath, otherwise they'll know you're a human."
Yeah.
And they get almost across the bridge without issue. Then this frog guy jumps up and is like, "Hey, Haku, how you doing?" Yeah. And then she's surprised by it, thus breathes in, and then notices they're human, so they have to dash. They like fly dash. I don't even know how they do it.
Yeah.
It's kind of reference to what he is.
Also, I think the bridge is the first place we see No Face.
No Face, yeah.
Throughout the first part, I didn't know his name, so I kept on calling him just mascot.
I called him Spirit, yeah. I called him Evil Spirit because he's definitely not friendly for most of the thing. He's just kind of the neutral and ominous.
Yeah.
So we first get our introduction to No Face as well. It's very true. But they get across the bridge after stunning the frog, which is I feel bad for him. But it's just like human. He's not even aggressive. He's not any of that. But Haku immediately like stuns him in this orb.
Yeah.
And then runs off.
Though it does, we do a little bit later, but it does seem like
it would be negative.
Kind of negative towards humans. I thought maybe it was the stench or something. Like they don't like the smell of humans or something.
They do reference that.
It was weird. Okay, though, but let's.
But it's so he stuns him. They go off. They're beside the bathhouse, and Haku puts his like hand to her head and gives her like a vision of what she has to do.
Yeah, he literally transfers his like memories or something.
Yeah, he's like just essence transfer to her of hey, you have to go down the stairs to the boiler room, ask him for a job, and keep begging him for a job until he gives you a job.
Yeah. Yeah. So she goes.
She goes down to the boiler room, and we actually get a very interesting reference to our first movie in which Soot Sprites return.
Yep, the Soot Sprites return, and they're glorious as ever.
They're carrying rocks and they're goofy.
I love
them. They're so adorable for something that in the first time we saw them in the Studio Ghibli series, they're like ominous and potentially this evil thing. But this time around, they're like dorky little. Here's the guy. He's just trying to do his best.
Yeah. But then we meet Kamaji.
Kamaji, yes.
And
Kamaji.
He's crazy looking. 6 arms.
He's like a
Stendo.
He's like Spider-Man, except if it was more literal.
Yeah, a literal Spider-Man.
But he also has like to your point, the extendo arm. It's not just the arms can reach; it's they can reach anywhere, and they'll just kind of go.
Yeah.
Which is definitely more weird.
Right.
And it looks like when we first meet him, he's like making matcha or something, like that tea stuff.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting because when he drinks from his pot, he's not drinking matcha; he's drinking water. But he's making teas for some reason. They never really touch on that.
I don't know. I don't really know what his job. I don't even think I paid attention to that really much. I just think like, oh, he's the guy in the boiler.
He's the guy in the boiler, which is fair.
Yeah.
So from there, Chihiro begs and pleads, if you will, to try and get a job, and then we get our female like sister character come in, and she goes, "Yamadi, we need stuff," and then is that a human?
Yeah.
And he's like, "No, that's not a human. That's my cousin."
No, he said that's my granddaughter.
My granddaughter, that's right, granddaughter.
Yeah, like she's begging for the job, and he's like, "No, I'm not going to give it to you." And then she helps the sprites or whatever.
And then just all of a sudden, it's like, "I'll change her heart."
And then the daughter or the girl comes in, and then he does that. So I guess like he isn't going to give her a job directly in the boiler room, but he does help her out.
Yeah, absolutely. So they go together to the top floor, journey to the top floor. In a very weird way, because they have to go take elevators up. And then every time that they thought that they were getting discovered, there's a radish spirit that just... a big, fat radish spirit who, I guess, smelled or something enough to cover up her.
Yeah, no, he's a G, bro. He's a G. You know,
he
looks like... He kind of reminds me of Totoro. And also, I think he has maybe similar assets, at least with the eyes. And also, earlier on the bridge, I made a note of little duck things, like big duck things, which they also look like Totoro.
I can see that,
so there's like a couple things that look like Totoro, and he's one of them. But he's a G, and
he helps protect her. They journey up through the elevator, and then even at the end, where he like guides her, he's like, "All right, this is your stop. You want to get off here, and you want to go that way." He doesn't actually say anything the whole time, but he's just like, "I'm here to help you because I understand what's going on here," without them having to even mention it.
Yeah, and I think it's just the only time we see him. Really, like this is the only time.
The only time we see him interact with stuff, but we see references of him later on. Yeah. Like we see shots with him in it, but not like as a character.
Yeah. But she gets there.
She gets to Yubaba's office, and she goes in, and of course has to beg Yubaba for a job. Who I guess we haven't really touched on this, but Yubaba they say is the witch that rules the area. She's the. So first off, we have another mention of a witch, which is interesting, and the fact that this time around, I guess a crow is her henchman, kind of.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's a crow-esque thing that just has her head, like a miniature version of her head.
Yeah. Yeah. There's that. She kind of turns into kind of vaguely a crow looking thing.
So again, you have that reference from Kiki's, where it's like now
Yeah.
it's kind of all coming together in its own different forms.
Yeah. There's a lot of in Ghibli movies. There's a lot of like mages and
Yes.
witches and wizards
Yes.
and stuff like that. So it's very interesting.
So she goes to Yubaba, and she's begging her for the job, and apparently, like Yubaba even says it outright, I have to give her a job because I would give anyone who begged me for a job.
Yeah, Yubaba does not want to give her the job. She really tries to scare her off,
Yep.
but she doesn't budge. And then eventually it's revealed
And then
that she has to.
Her kid. It's never really defined what the baby is. It's just a small baby. Small baby.
I would assume it's her.
Yeah, I would assume it's her child, and it's this. When you say small baby, it's small in age, not small in size.
Small is. Yeah.
It's very clearly established very early on that it is a massive baby.
Which is weird because I guess Yubaba's kind of big too, but like
it's only her head
the
that's
baby
big.
is
the baby
bigger
is
than her.
massive.
It's way bigger than her. It's crazy.
So the baby kind of, in its own right, does a saving because it whines, and then Yubaba's like, "Fine, we'll do it. Whatever. Just let me deal with this."
Yeah.
So she gets a contract and they sign it, and she learns that what she's losing in signing in the contract is her name.
Yeah.
She loses her name and she goes from Chihiro to Sen.
Yeah, that was interesting because for me personally, in my notes throughout the whole movie, I just called her Chihiro.
Yeah.
I never called her Sen.
I actually, so for my notes, I actually did the opposite. As soon as the transition happened, I said Sen, and then when it transitioned back, I went Chihiro. So it's very much I follow. To your point, it is weird and unique that we kind of follow based on the name that they're given.
Yeah.
But instead, you decided to call her true name the whole way through, which is the theme. Whereas mine was like, I'll just transition between the two.
Yeah.
So we get that she knows Sen, and that Sen now has to go and find work essentially in the bathhouse with I can't remember the female sister. Lynn, the sister character, and she has to work with her as they do basic chores around the bathhouse. They're cleaning the floors, cleaning the baths themselves.
Tough stuff, though.
Tough stuff. Especially given the size of the things. They get stuck with what they call the massive or the gargantuan bath.
Yeah, and people are messing with them.
Oh, yeah.
People are fucking with them.
Oh, yeah. People are just unbridled messing with.
Yeah.
And it's cool, and then Lynn tells Sen to go get a bath token so they can clean the bath. And it's like, all right, that makes sense. So she goes to the foreman, and he's like, I'm not doing that for you.
Yeah.
And this is where we get our second show of No Face, who just picks up one, gives it to her, and she's like, thank you, and wanders off.
Yeah.
And No Face is there just collecting them, I guess. You never really get to know what he's doing after that scene until later on where they're back in the bath and he has tons of them.
Yeah, the tags,
Yeah.
Yeah, he gives her the one tag and then he tries to give her like a shit ton more tags.
Yeah.
And she's like, no.
No, thank you, I'm good.
But he doesn't budge. He just gives them to her, which eventually it actually does come in handy.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
So, I think at that point I was thinking, maybe, is he some sort of, does he know? Does he know what's going to happen? Is he on?
No, I thought he was like the embodiment of caring for some reason.
Yeah.
Because the whole time it's not like there's no essence of evil. It's just like nobody seems to care about you. I'm here to care, so I'll give you the stuff you need.
Yeah, I think in that moment, I thought maybe he was omnipotent or knew something was going to happen or maybe some kind of guardian deity over her. But I think overall, he kind of is just like a lonely creature or whatever.
Yeah.
She's like, it feels like the first one to show him kindness. Like maybe he wasn't allowed in the bathhouse before.
Yeah.
But then he gets allowed in.
He gets allowed in and then he does what he does.
He's like a toxic boyfriend or something.
Maybe.
Like a He gets really upset.
Toxic
really
relationship
quickly.
for sure, though.
Yeah, for sure.
So then they get this, they clean the thing, and they get this, their customer, if you will, that they call a stink spirit, even though it's not. It turns out to be a river dragon spirit.
Yeah.
But they call it a stink spirit, so Sen does the best to try and take care of them and like clean them and get water going.
Yeah, they push that all to Sen and Lin because Sen and Lin get the big tub or whatever, and then they're like, "All right, you guys can take care of it." Again, again, trying to mess them up.
And then, but Sen surprisingly does a good job, and so much so that the river spirit gets cleaned and it is purified, and it has like apparently like trash is put in the river. I guess what the reference is.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought too. I was like, okay, so he's like an ocean or a river that's been like trash or something like that.
So she has to tie a rope around it, and they pull out all the trash from the river.
Yeah. And
the spirit goes, "Thank you," like outright.
And he is okay. The first when he initially comes up and
it's creepy.
Comes up,
it's creepy.
It's like it's so.
It is so creepy. And because it's like the super wrinkled face, and it's just the not even missing, but like few teeth.
Yeah,
it's super weird.
But it does make me wonder though, like, are stink spirits an actual thing, or are all stink spirits just like
another spirit in disguise? Yeah. I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah. They didn't really touch on that either. They say it's a stink spirit and move on from it. But so they clean the spirit, and the river spirit gives her like medicine. It's never specified what it is until later on, where it goes, "This is spirit medicine." Yeah,
it's like I think it's some like herbal cake or something that she gets. She tries to eat it later. Like
it says it tastes. In reference to that, it tastes terrible. It
tastes bad, and it doesn't even do anything at that point.
Yeah,
like, it doesn't seem. So it was kind of like, oh, like
what does this do?
Yeah, I think it's like something important.
Yeah,
but it's like.
It's just whatever. It's not for me, but whatever.
But that comes in later.
It does come. Well, it comes in only shortly after, because the actual use of it doesn't come in until after the next big climax, which is Haku coming back in dragon form.
Yeah.
And now being chased by these like paper.
Yeah, these paper birds.
That was weird. They're like birds and they're human.
Like angels. They look like the paper angels.
They look like paper angels, and they're just
flying.
And they're absolutely destroying him. Like there's no sugarcoating that. He was being destroyed.
Yeah, that was crazy. Also, when she sees him fighting them, like initially she doesn't know who it is. It's just like some random dragon. But then like she accidentally calls out Haku. So like she subconsciously knows it's Haku.
Right.
Which they get into that later.
Yes.
But that was very interesting to see at that point. And it's like, oh, why? How does she
have a connection to Haku?
Right.
And they actually mentioned that really early on. They're like, how do you know my name?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just know your name.
Yeah.
I've known you for a long time for some reason.
Throughout this time, like, I think I was wondering, like, is he sort of a love interest, or is he more of just a guardian deity?
I thought guardian deity the whole time, because it would make more sense to me at the time. It was like, well, because he's known you since you were very little, that's outright said. Clearly, he's been a guardian spirit or something.
Yeah, but they do get into like the power of love or whatever. Between the two, and they do reveal something later that kind of maybe makes it a little less guardian deity, a little more something else.
And so, the Haku's getting destroyed, and then he flees the paper things. I mean, I don't even know what to call them, and it gets to a safe spot, but he's horribly mangled.
Yeah, the blood in these movies is noticeable. It's very interesting, actually, like the way they do the blood. It looks so thick.
Yes.
It looks extreme.
Yes, it looks almost like a grease kind of level of thickness. Like it's...
And it's gruesome.
Yeah. Gruesome. It is. He's bleeding from the mouth and from his sides. And she actually uses that to her advantage later on as she gets blood on her hands. And then people don't understand what it is. They just go, it's blood. Yeah. And apparently that scares them.
Yeah, she does not get enough credit for being quite smart throughout this entire movie.
Yes. So she has to then go back and try and get to Haku to try and save him from whatever happened. And during that, we get the third seeing of No Face, who's now been in the bathhouse and is kind of like giving gold to everyone because people are taking it.
Mhm.
And then No Face offers her gold.
Yeah.
She, of course, rejects it again.
Yeah, she doesn't want
And this time he kind of rampages
it.
and starts eating people.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, I think they have like the frog looks for the gold in the bathhouse at night or whatever, then he eats it. He gains a voice by
Yes.
eating the frog.
He gains the frog's voice.
And then he tries to give her the gold, she rejects it, and yeah, he just starts giving gold to everyone.
Right.
And
After eating 2 more people, though.
Yeah, after eating 2 more people, he just starts giving gold to everyone, and they start like praising him. They start like showering praise and stuff like that. Even though he looks so crazy,
he does not look like they show you the common spirits and stuff that are in there, and none of them look like that.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he's like this ambiguous black mass of just shadow energy, and no one thinks twice about it. They're just like, oh, that's a customer, yay!
Everyone is like quite greedy.
Yes.
In this bathhouse, including Yubaba. Yubaba is extremely greedy.
Yubaba's all about the money.
Mm-hmm.
Which is very interesting because later on in the reference it shows how she doesn't pay attention to things as closely as people think. But that's later on. So, but we get to the scene now where she gets to Haku, and Haku is horribly hurt, and Haku gets like half, I think, of the spirit medicine that was given to her. She force feeds it to Haku, and he like an animal is resisting, but she makes sure she eats it, and then he barfs up a stamp and a slug, or a slug that's covering a stamp.
Yeah. Well, I think first she finds him in Yubaba's office.
That's right. First she's in Yubaba's office,
and then she gets trapped with the baby, and the baby can talk.
Yes.
The baby can talk normally.
The baby is somewhat sentient for a baby.
Weird.
Yes.
And then he tries to like keep her there, and then that's when, like you said, like she scares him away with the blood on her hands.
Germs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's very much like the cuties thing.
Outside. He's terrified. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like cuties when you're young. It's like, oh, you're gonna give me cutie. Oh, you're giving me germs. No.
Yeah. And he's terrified of the outside. I guess it's Yubaba telling him like, don't go out.
I think that's what it is. I think it's that princess aesthetic of like. Yeah. You're safe in the tower. Outside the tower's danger.
Which is so weird for
a baby that size.
But then they get pushed down the thing, and then I think as they get pushed down, like the paper spirit turns out is
before they get pushed down.
Yeah, before they get pushed down.
Zeneva appears.
Yes,
Zeneva, who is the sister of Yubaba.
Yeah, and then she turns the baby into a rat.
Yes. Turns the crow into
a little fly.
A fly crow thing. It's smaller.
Yeah.
In the 3 heads, he turned into the baby.
Right. And then they get pushed down altogether.
Yes.
And then they feed she feeds the
spirit medicine
to Haku, who is very much so in a primal state.
Yes.
Animalistic state.
Yes. And he resists, and then he lifts up the thing that was mentioned, the slug and the stamp. Mm-hmm. She goes, well, I have to return this.
Yeah.
After stomping out, stomping on the slug, mm-hmm. And he goes, okay, quick, you have to make a circle with your hands and be gone.
Yeah.
Like it almost seemed like a childlike ritual of like, curse, be gone.
Yeah.
So he decurses her, and she takes the stamp and has to travel to this like forest area via train.
Yeah, she decides. I think at this point, Hamaji tells Chihiro a little bit about Haku's story.
Yes.
Like how he got to working under Yubaba.
Yes.
Like why he's like kind of cursed to be under her and stuff like that and do her dirty work.
Yep.
And then she's like, oh well, then I have to return this seal to Zeneva because then that'll like break the curse or whatever.
That'll break the curse on him, and then by the time they get there, she realizes it's a pointless thing, but that's a little later.
Yeah.
But the Boilerman goes and gets tickets for the train, which is seen multiple times throughout the thing, but never really referenced like what it is or where it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, so she gets the tickets, and then she has to go to the train, but the monster thing...
No Face is still...
No Face.
Is still patrolling and prowling about the thing.
He is rampaging. He's like rampaging in the that one room or whatever. And he's like asking for Sen.
Yes.
It's like, where's Sen? Where's Sen?
I want Sen.
And so
Give me Sen.
he's summoned up there, so she has to go up there.
Pseudo summoned. They're looking for her, but they can't find her.
Yeah.
And then she's revealed, and she's like, okay, I'll go deal with this first.
Yeah.
So she goes and deals with it, and gives the other half of the spirit medicine that she said this was going to be for my parents, but here you can have it.
Yeah.
To him, and then it causes him to like regurgitate the things he was swallowed.
Yeah, he starts regurgitating everything that's swallowed, all the trash and all the whatever, like bad stuff, and the bad.
And then the people themselves.
And all the while he's doing this, he's chasing her.
Yes.
Throughout the bathhouse, and she's trying to leave. She's trying to go get on the train.
Yep.
Go to Zeniba's.
And then she gets outside, and then she slowly gets down, and he's kind of pacified at this point because he's thrown up everything.
He's starting to slow down. He's really slow.
And then she just follows her.
Yeah.
And then they get on the train, and the train man kind of takes the tickets, and there's obviously just enough for all of them, coincidentally.
Yeah.
For movie reasons, I guess.
Movie reasons.
And No Face comes along, and then they're riding to the sixth stop, and it's very scenic. It's like this is the part of the movie that's like we're just showing you the art and beauty of the area.
This is the classic scene on the train with No Face.
Yep.
All the promotion or whatever.
Yep.
And he kind of just loses his voice because of the frog, obviously. Yes. And then he kind of can't talk, and I feel like it's interesting how they resolve him. Like.
Yeah.
They kind of don't, like, I feel like, I'm not sure they can entirely make up. Instead, they just kind of, like, sit on this train. They don't really talk about it. They just, like, sit in each other's peace, in each other's silence.
Yeah.
And they're just on the train. And also, on the train, I really found it interesting, the humanoid-looking figures that are,
human shadows.
Spirits, the human shadows. And, it really made me think about, like, I wonder what they are. Like, maybe they're humans who also wandered in, but maybe they didn't get caught by Yubaba. Maybe they just...
I thought that was the natural progression to death.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, this is them journeying from their life to their afterlife.
Yeah.
On this train.
So that was really interesting. But yes, they definitely show the art style. They show the beautiful scenery throughout this whole thing. It's nice. It's a nice scene.
And then they get to their stop. They get off. And they're like, well, this is the way I guess we go. And they just kind of start following our path. And then they're met by cousin It, essentially, as a lamp.
Yeah.
Because it's this little hand that just has a lamp coming off of it.
And he guides them.
And he guides them to her house. Or is it a house or is it more like a cottage? I'm still at
Zeniba's cabin.
Zeniba's place, if you will.
Her place,
And Zeniba is like, she's very much like the grandmother character again. She even says, call me Granny.
Yeah, she's chill. You can see the stark difference between her and her twin sister. And you can
only in action, though. And physically, they do look very similar.
Physically, they look very much the same. They look... I couldn't even tell any differences. They might be...
I think the rings were slightly different.
The rings might have been slightly different.
But that was all I could really notice.
But the house, like, it's very... much more homely, maybe minimal. It's not like this big business with a bunch of money into it and stuff like that. And she's very sweet. She's not like even aggressive.
Yes.
So you can see that difference, which is interesting.
And then she weaves her a hairband, I guess?
A magical hairband.
A magical hairband that's going to protect her throughout the rest of the journey. Even though it's never referenced or used.
Yeah, they don't.
It's just you put your hair up and it was done. But then Haku appears because Haku goes to Yubaba's office and is like, "You're missing something."
Yeah.
She's like, "What?" And she's looking at the gold, like, "Am I missing something with the gold? What am I missing?" And until she realizes that it's the baby that's not actually the baby.
Yeah.
The baby is now the three heads.
Yeah, no, she saw when Chihiro showed up to the No Face when he was in the room still rampaging, and she was talking with Yubaba. Yubaba saw the mouse thing on the side, and she didn't recognize it at all. And she kind of treated it with spite.
Yep.
And like Chihiro was like, "You don't recognize this?"
Yep.
And she was like dirty mouse or whatever.
Yep.
And the baby was clearly like
disappointed. He was
really
disappointed. It was like, "You don't recognize me? How dare you?"
Yeah. So she does not even recognize her own child.
Yeah.
Which I guess like it is magical.
It is magic. Yeah.
But like still.
So she realizes that, and then that's when she makes a deal with Haku to go get her kid and Chihiro and bring them back, and then there will be one more test. And this test is basically just, can you recognize your parents?
Yeah. Well, I think actually first, I think she just promises that, like, yeah, if you get my baby back, I will return Chihiro and her parents.
Mm-hmm.
And so Haku comes, and then they leave, and then as they're leaving, No Face kind of finds his place with Zeniba.
Yes.
And he's left behind with Zeniba.
Yes.
He's found his place. He's not lonely anymore. He has like a job. He has some company and stuff like that, and she respects him.
And then also on the journey back, it's a good point, is the realization of what Haku is.
Mm-hmm.
Haku is a river spirit that apparently when they were young, Chihiro fell into a river and Haku saved her.
Yeah, they realize that, and then he turns back into a human kind of.
Into the human spirit form. And they Peter Pan float along back to the Yababa's bathhouse.
And also, now that we're on this track, I'm remembering that when they were walking up to Zeniba's house, I think it was, the baby mouse, he got tired and like walking, and like Chihiro was like, "Hey, you can sit on my shoulder," but he's like, "No, I'm doing this now." Like, he's fully become like
independent and
headstrong. Yeah, that's right. And so so they get there.
Baba
springs the final test on them.
Yep, which is find your parents.
Yeah,
and she's said, "Don't be afraid, I got this." Even the baby had a full 180 because the baby was like, "Mom, don't do this. This is mean and whatnot."
Yeah.
Like, but I have to do this. This was the deal. Mm-hmm. And so they do the test. She goes up and she's looking at all these pigs, and she's like, "There must be a problem because none of these are my parents." Mm-hmm. Are you sure?
Yeah, he bows.
Yeah, I'm sure. She just kind of gives her like side eye. She's like, "Yeah, no, I'm sure." And then it's revealed that no, that was the test, that her parents weren't there.
Tricky. She's trying to trick. See, the way I interpreted this is that she was like breaking her deal. Actually, I felt like she like the baby was like, "No, like you better not like make Chihiro cry or whatever." Mm-hmm. But Yubaba was like, "Nah, this is the rules of the world or whatever. Yes. This is how it has to be." But it's like,
is it really
have to be?
Yeah.
But yeah, she tries to trick her into staying.
And then she succeeds and gets out. She finally is able to go back down, cross the river, go back out the train station is what I believe they reference it as. It's a little holding area. Out, and then she sees her parents. They link up, then they all leave, and it turns out that this big red facade thing was actually like an old stone bridge that still has this opening, but it's just there. And they talk about how the car is now covered in dust and debris.
Yeah, so it feels like a lot of time has passed in the real world.
Yes.
Once they get back, which
this plays in the conspiracy theory that I mentioned earlier of how the theory is, the prevailing theory I've heard is that what happens is when they're driving, they're going so fast that they try and stop in front of this stone thing. They fail. They crash into it. The two parents die on impact, but Chihiro survives. So Chihiro, is being the only survivor, is the one who goes through as a human, and thus isn't affected by everything going on, is able to rescue her parents from death, comes back. That's why the car is in such a dilapidated state, because everything's now replaced and is moved back, and then from there gets to journey off.
Yeah.
That's the going conspiracy theory. But I thought, no, it could totally work.
I could see that. I could totally see that. I don't think I even thought about that when watching, but like I can totally see that. And
then from there, they journey off to home, or at least it's presumed they get to home.
Yeah, and then another thing, like at the final test, I think like everyone at the bathhouse was actually on Chihiro's side. Like,
yes,
it kind of switched.
Yes,
which was nice to see.
It was nice to see. It was very pleasant. And then
you'd like to see that.
You go from a very negative to I've now helped everyone and worked with everyone to a very positive outcome. Which is very interesting because the next one we get into is definitely not that way. It's definitely not everything just turns out hunky-dory. Because with Princess Mononoke, it's definitely a lot more, there's an ending. It's not necessarily happy, but it's not necessarily bad.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not bad, I would say, but it's not entirely happy. There are definitely some sacrifices made.
Yes.
It's more adult.
Yes,
And
this is
the
the
main
most adult
characters
one thus far.
are definitely young adults now. We're switching from child characters
Yep.
to adult characters.
Yep.
So drastic change.
Drastic change to come.
But a lot of the mystical fantasy magic will carry on.
It'll be emphasized
And
even.
it will be emphasized.
It'll be emphasized.
Mhm.
So
I'm excited to get into it.
it will be great to get into it. With that, that is the episode done. Thank you everyone for watching.